All right. Today we are on day 8 of our ACT Prep Unit 2 Pre-Algebra 2 topics. And today we're going to be writing linear expressions and equations. All right, so you may have to write an expression or an equation to solve a problem. An equation is a statement about variables and numbers that contain an equal sign. An expression contains no equal sign. The variables in a linear equation are of the first degree. They have exponents of 1. So words or phrases in the problem may help you decide when to write an operation sign or when to write an equal sign. But remember that you can't just use these words and phrases without thinking. So some hints here. If they want you to add, they'll use words like and, more, in all, increased by, sum is the most common one, total. All those words indicate that they're wanting you to add. Subtract, less, decreased by, difference, how many more, how many less. Those are words that suggest subtraction. Multiplication, there's the big one, of, and product and times. And divide, per, quotient, shared, those words all indicate division. All right, oh, and equals, there's the big one. If you see is or was or any form of is, that means equals, or obviously they can use equal to or equals. Okay, so write an expression for this statement. It says 3 times the sum of x and y. Well, this says to add x and y. And I'm putting it in parentheses because if I just write 3 times x plus y, it looks like I'm just multiplying 3 by x, and that's not what they mean. You're multiplying this sum, which means you're adding first and then multiplying that sum by 3. Okay, and again, this one's pay attention. An expression, you don't have an equal sign. For 2, they want you to write an equation, which means you need an equal sign in it. So it says the Rooster baseball team scored 8 runs in the first 4 innings. The Stars scored 3 runs in the first 4 innings. After 4 innings, how many more runs have the Roosters scored? So you're going to say, well, Roosters have scored 8 more, or 8 in the first innings, and the Stars have scored 3. So if I take away 3, that will tell me how many more runs the Roosters have scored. Okay. All right, 3, write an equation for this problem. It says a magnolia tree on Kiefer's property is 7 feet 3 inches high. If the magnolia tree grows 10 inches a year, how many years will pass before the tree is 16 feet high? Okay, well, the problem is we've got a tree here that's in feet and inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change everything to feet. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I have 3 inches, and I want to know how many feet that is. Well, if I use my conversion rate and say that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, then inches, or not times, I'm sorry, that equals, you set up a proportion. Okay, so then if I cross, I get 3 times 1 is 3 equals x times 12 is 12x, divide by 12, you get x equals 1/4, which means 3 inches is equal to 0.25 feet. Okay, so now I know that my magnolia tree right now is 7.25 inches high. Okay, so then that's what it is now, and it's going to grow 10 inches a year. Oh, but I'm in feet. That was silly. Okay, so it grows 10 inches a year. So if I'm going to be everything in feet, I'm going to have to turn inches into feet. So I say 10 inches is how many feet? Well, 12 inches are in a foot. So I've got 10 times 1 is 10 equals x times 12 is 12x. Divide by 12, and you get x equals 10/12, which would be 5/6 of a foot, and 5/6, I don't know what kind of decimal that is. I apologize, I don't have my calculator. but I'll just leave it like that. So right now we're at 7.25 feet. It's going to grow by 5/6 of a foot per year, and I want to know how many years will it take for this sum to equal 16 feet. Okay? Alright, and I'm just looking at the way they did it in their book, and they converted everything to inches. So they did the same thing, but they just changed everything to inches, and then they could leave the 10. Alrighty. So you try this one. Hit pause. Come back when you're ready. And hopefully you got B. Alright, it says a newspaper reporter can write W words per hour. Her colleague can write W minus 15 words per hour. If they work together on a story, which equation below shows the amount of time T it would take them to write 15,000 words? Well, if I say that, sorry, I gotta find where I'm at here. Oh, there we are. Okay, so if I say that the first girl, she can write W words per hour. Let's call that T. Okay, her colleague can write a story in W minus 15. So if I add her colleagues working to her, she can work W minus 15 per hour, which we're calling T. And that comes out to, when they work together, their total amount of words when they're done is 1,500 words. And you're going, well, that equation isn't there. Well, then that means you've got to do something to make this look like what they do. And I'm looking, and all of them have T by themselves. So what I'm looking at is I've got to get T alone. Well, I have T in two different of the terms. There's one here, and there's one here. I need to get one T. So we're going to factor that out. If you look at this being one term and this being one term, and they both have a T in it, I can pull the T out. And when you pull T out, what you're doing is you're dividing both terms by T. Well, that would leave W here plus W minus 15 here equals 1,500. And then to get T alone, I'm going to divide by W plus W minus 15, W plus W minus 15, and there's my T. But that answer still isn't there. Well, that's because they combined the two W's on the bottom and got 2W minus 15. And that's your answer. Okay? Alright, so let's do some practice problems. It says write an expression, so we don't have to have an equal sign here. It says write an expression for each of these statements. The difference of the money in a bank account at the beginning of the year and the amount withdrawn during the year. So you have the balance that you have right now, let's call that B, and difference means I want to subtract what I withdraw, so B minus W. That would be an expression that represents what you have in the bank now, the difference between what you have in the bank now and the amount you withdraw during the year. Okay, the average of Scott's grades on 5 quizzes. Well, his first grade plus his second grade plus his third grade plus his fourth grade plus his fifth grade, all divide to find an average. You divide by how many scores, which would be 5. 3, Laura's pay for 1 week if she worked 8 hours at a regular rate and 3 hours of overtime at 1.5 times her regular rate. Well, she's going to make 8 hours times her regular pay plus 3 hours at her rate 1.5 times her regular rate. So that would be 1.5 times R. And then if that answer isn't there, you might look and see if they multiplied that. That would simplify down to 8R plus 4.5R. And if that answer isn't there, these are like terms, you can combine those, which would be 12.5R. Okay? So again, just because you write an expression and it's not one of the answer choices, look and see if you can't simplify your answer to match one of theirs. Okay, 4, the amount of money in a savings account at the end of the year, if P dollars were deposited at the beginning of the year and 1% interest was earned on the account. So the money at the end of the year is going to be everything you put in plus the interest that you earn, which is going to be 1%, 0.01, of, meaning times, the principal that you put in there. So you're going to add another 10% of that principal. Okay? All right, number 5, it says the balance, now we're writing equations, so now we need equal signs. The balance of Bryna's account at the credit union was $31.55. After she made a withdrawal to pay for car repairs, her new balance was $28.55. By how much did Bryna, I don't know that name, withdraw from her account? Okay, well, she started off with $31.55. She withdrew, I don't know how much, but that leaves a balance of $28.55. Okay, so you would have, and you could write it this way, or you could then, I mean, it depends on what the answers is. When you look at your choices, I mean, they're just asking you to write an equation. They didn't say solve it. They just said write the equation that can be used to solve it. So again, depending on what your answers look like, if that isn't there and they just have number answers, then obviously they want you to solve it. Okay? Yeah. Okay, for 6, when Tony turned 9 years old, he received an allowance of $4 each week. His parents increased his allowance by 75 cents a week each birthday. What was Tony's allowance when he turned 12? Well, we have, he starts off getting $4 a week. They're going to give them an increase of 75 cents per week, let's call that W, until he turns 12, until he turns 12. Well, if our W is in weeks, then we want to know how many weeks is between 9 and 12 years old. Well, from 9 to 12 is 3 years, but I need to convert that to weeks. So 3 years turns into how many weeks? I don't know, so we're going to set up a proportion, because I do know that in 1 year there are 52 weeks. What did I do? Oh, I went to months first. There's 52 weeks in a year. So I could cross multiply and I would get 3 times 52. What am I doing? There were 3 years. 1 year is 52 weeks. 156. How did I get 144? Sorry, I'm looking at my paper. I got 144. I'm trying to figure out what I did. 1 year is 12 months. That's 36. Is there 52 weeks in a year? You know what? I'm not sure. Let's go to months first. Okay, I'm going to go to months. So let's figure out how many months are in 3 years. So I know that there are 12 months in 1 year. Oh, what am I doing? Let's set up a proportion. I want to set up a ratio or a conversion. Alright, so if I want to convert years to weeks, I got to get rid of years and I'll go to months. There are 12 months in 1 year. So years cancel and that gives me 36 months. I don't want months. So to get rid of months, I put them on the bottom and I go to years, and there's 12 months in 1 year. Right? Oh no, I'm going back to years. I'm going to go to weeks. I'm sorry, guys. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm pretty early. Sorry, so months, I want to get rid of months and I want to go to weeks. There are 4 weeks in 1 month. There we go. And 36 times 4 is 144 weeks. So this is going to happen for 144 weeks. And that would be my equation. Again, it didn't say solve it, it just said set it up. Alright, number 7. A chemistry researcher has a container filled with 100 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. If the researcher does a series of experiments that each use 4 milliliters of hydrochloric acid, how much of the acid is left? Well, he started off with 100. He's going to do 4 experiments, and each time or I'm sorry, he's going to do a series of experiments. We don't know how many experiments, but each of those experiments, he's going to use 4 of those milliliters. And that will be what is left over. I could call it L for leftover. All right, number 9. I don't know what happened to number 8. Weird. Number 9, write an equation that could be used to find Marvin's age if 3 more than Kim's age is equal to 29 less than Marvin's age. So we can say we want to find Marvin's age. Well, his age is 3 more than Kim's age. Wait. 3 more than Kim's age is equal to 29 less than Marvin's age, which means you're going to take Marvin's age and subtract 29. You don't want to write 29 minus M. That would be different, okay? So there's an equation that could solve it. But again, you got to be careful. They might have gotten M alone, so this is one possibility. But if that answer isn't there, you might rearrange your items until it looks like whatever theirs is. If I got M alone, for example, I could add 29 and I would get 32 plus K equals M. I could get K alone by subtracting 3, and that would give me K equals M minus 29, 32. Okay, so these are possibilities also. It just depends on, don't automatically assume you're wrong. You might be able to manipulate your equation to look like the way they wrote theirs. Okay, number 10, the tax on a restaurant meal is 8%. If Joe paid 15% tip on the original pre-tax meal cost, write an equation to show how much Joe paid in total for a meal whose original cost was $20. Well, he's going to pay the $20, plus he's going to pay 8% of that for tax, so plus 0.08 times 20. Plus, he's going to pay 15%, not of the total, but of the original amount. So he's going to also pay 15%, another 15% of the $20, and that would be my total price. Okay, and again, that's an equation. We could solve it easily just by multiplying and adding them together, but again, they just said write an equation. Alright, so you try this one, hit pause, come back when you're ready. And hopefully you got D. A computer virus creates a total of 50 copies of itself on each computer it infects. If n computers at school are infected with the virus, which equation shows V, the number of copies of the virus at the school? Well, it's 50 times the number of computers, so it's 50n. Okay, try this one, hit pause, come back when you're ready. Hopefully you got G. So it says a company starts with $500,000 in a savings account. Every 2 years, the account grows by $250,000 in regular yearly amounts. Which of the following expressions can be used to represent the amount in dollars in the account after X years? Well, there's $500,000 in it now. It's going to grow by $250,000 but every 2 years. So that means if it was, like, say 20 years, this is only gonna happen half of that time, you would divide that by 2. And we're writing an expression, so we don't need an equal sign. Now that answer isn't there, but it is. All they did was, this is over 1, so they said 500,000. And they did top times top is 250,000 x over 2. And then what they did was they pulled the x out and they said that's 500,000 plus 250,000 over 2. And they just pulled the x out here. Okay. Those are all the same. You could have actually divided that in 2 and had 500,000 plus whatever that is, x. You got to kind of pay attention to how they're writing it and make yours look like theirs. Alright, try this one, hit pause, come back when you're ready. And hopefully you got D. It says a bag of 30 chocolate bars is shared. That's a very key word for divide. Equally among 12 children. Which equation could be used to find the number of chocolate bars? So they used C for chocolate bars. Is going to be the 30 split 12 different ways. I would have written it like this, and they just wrote it horizontally, divided by 12. Alright, try this one. Hit pause. Come back when you're ready. Alright, it says a bicycle store pays sales representatives a base salary of $5 per hour worked. That per means time, so 5 times the number of hours. In addition, employees receive a commission of 8% of, that means multiply, so it's 0.08 times something, the value of each bicycle showed. Which expression shows Joan's pay for the week if she worked 8 hours and sold V dollars? So there's my 0.8 times that V worth of bicycles. And there's my expression. Alright, try this one. Hit pause. Come back when you're ready. And hopefully you got E. Rachel has an average of 82 on the last 4 math tests. So to figure out the total, it would be 4 times 82 of those scores. If she has one more test to take before the end of the semester, which equation could be used to find the score she needs to raise her average to an 85? So I'm going to add one more score, and then to get an average, I'd have to divide by 5, and I want that average to be 85. So there would be my, except they use T instead of X. Alright, and that will do it for day 8. So I will see you next time for day 9.